and economic analyst. Honorable Beatrice Elachi, the Great North Member of Parliament, Vivian Tar, Communications and Governance Affairs expert, and as well Sheila Olang, economist and a political analyst. And now to you, Vivian, on how much we will budget for affirmative action. President Ruto have increased it from 2 billion to 3 billion, whereas we'll spend more than 24 billion in travel. 2 billion for tea and mandazis at State House. Will our president be more considerate in terms of ensuring that the budget that is done by Parliament, which could be under instructions, at least enhances this kitty? And also, during the budget making process, you'd realize it's so easy for the likes of NGCDF to get more allocation compared to these GAF, because it's only 47 women who represent 47 counties in the National Assembly.
I think a lot needs to be done on gender sensitization, awareness of gender issues at policy level and at lawmaking level, especially gender sensitive budgeting, because issues like water, health, education, those are all issues that in one way or another touch on gender. And even when we speak about, okay, when I say gender, I mean women issues, although the two words should not be used concurrently. But anyway, the thing is, even when we talk about 3 billion for National Government's Affirmative Action Fund, it's not nearly enough to cater for the more than half of the population of Kenya who are, females. But it's welcome in the sense that at least it's grown from something. We never used to have this before, but at least now we have it. But the thing is, the reason I am saying we need to be more, to have more gender-sensitive budgets and budgeting processes is because women's needs are central to the development of communities within Kenya. So when we're talking about budgeting or creating or setting funds aside in the budget to cater for some issues that affect women, it should transcend, National Government Affirmative Action Fund, because that will not be nearly enough to cater for that. But I think the other area maybe we've failed in is in showing, I don't know how to say this, in showing value or in demonstrating the value that these funds that are given for women is doing. Because it's not enough to just say, you're supporting chamas and women groups. I think a lot more sensitization, training needs to be done so that the public and also lawmakers are aware. Because like right now, we have the elective post in every county for women member of parliament for every county. But I can tell you for free, even now, if you met any random Kenyan and asked them what is the role of this office, most of them will just say, kushughulika mambo ya wamama. They don't really understand what that role is supposed to do. So I think we need to do a lot more sensitization in regard to women issues so that people are just more sensitive. If you see something happening or you notice something, you can always act. But it's like Honorable Elachi has said, it's like we've lost that sensitivity on issues that face women on a daily. Well,
Sheila, you have been exposed to institutions in the UK, France, USA, and you are keen to also clinch the position of a county MP, that is a woman representative position. On the affirmative action, is enough being done? And as well, what became of the gender CS position?
First of all, I would like to say that we need to go back to the basics so that we have a bit more of a structured understanding, because what normally ends up happening is men say, oh, you women just complain and cry too much and you don't know what you're doing. We'd like to remind them that we're very prepared. Maybe the women that they're talking to are the ones that are not prepared, but we are. So anytime you want to measure the health of a society, you have four basic, very basic tenets that the government has to focus on, four particular areas. One, you have security. Two, you have education. Three, you have healthcare. And then four, you have economics. Anytime you empower women in these four sectors, you're home and dry. because what happens is there's a trickle-down effect of women who are empowered through these sectors. We can go through them one by one in a very simple way. Let's start with economics. So in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, the Women's Charter, they mentioned that women would be given, there would be the 50 billion that you alluded to of the Hustler Fund, that would include the Financial Inclusion Fund, so that women would be given priority or access to this funding from the Hustler Fund. However, we end up being at the face of implementation where there are no guidelines to implement this. The first problem is, since the Hustler Fund was introduced, you have the Mobile Gender Gap Report of 2023 that showed that only 39% of women have access to mobile banking or mobile facilities in order to access this fund. What does this mean? It means that 61% of women in this country do not have access to the Hustler Fund and other financial inclusion funding areas where they can then go ahead and start their business. What does this mean? It means that women, because they don't have access to these mobile banking facilities, they are not the ones, it is not the mama mboga who is able to get the 10,000 to then get some stock. Or in a place like where I come from, we sell a lot of omena. It doesn't take a lot for a woman to be able to get a stock of omena and then go in and then sell that and make it something much bigger. If we move to education, we know what's wrong with the new funding model. You move to education, you find that it's the same women that have a lot of burden in making sure that their children actually go to school. We talk about the new funding model a lot, but that's even pushing it a little bit further. We have CBC. So if you look at the basic tenets, so from the time a woman has a child until this child is supposed to access CBC. This morning, again, I had you saying how we need to employ JSSS teachers that are not there. We have a CBC model, which is very good. I went through the 844 model, and when I saw the CBC model, I was very relieved because I thought, okay, this is very progressive. You asked me about my experience. Yes, I was privileged enough to do my bachelor's, my undergraduate in the US. And yes, it mirrors much more of the CBC model. But however, the resources and the commitment has been pumped in to ensure that it is successful. What is this government doing? This government has a CBC model where we have teachers who are on strike. Why? They're completely underpaid. Chacha, I cannot be a teacher going in to teach children when I myself cannot even buy tokens of electricity in my house, when I myself cannot pay my own children's tuition. And what ends up happening? Women, at the end of the day, we are the ones who fall back having a lot of these burdens.
Well,
just to finish up, Chacha, on matters security, we're discussing femicide. And I think we're going to we need to delve a little bit more because we also have Honorable Elachi there, who I believe sits in the Health Committee, so that we can discuss the same issues that we saw of, I'm a mother myself, I have 2 children. If you told me today that after going through hours of labor, I'd find myself on a cold floor, that is a shame in this country.
Well, just to progress with this conversation, Honorable Elachi, you know, at some point, President Ruto hinted that if he will find himself at a position that he needs to pick a deputy president, then it will be a woman. He had an opportunity to replace Gachagua. It apparently became Kithure Kindiki, and not the likes of Gladys Wanga who had been fronted, and Anne Waiguru. What became of that promise? Or are you hopeful that 2027 Ruto will pick a deputy president or a running mate who is a woman?
Well, first of all, let us look at my president. You know, I can see you are really pushing him. But let me tell you this. My president is a Kalenjin man, and I'm saying this with all humility. And I understand the Kalenjin culture. He's so embedded in it that sometimes it hinders him. Yes, he appreciates women, he appreciates what we do, but that hinders him to look through. And that's the biggest challenge we face. Because you look, how many women governors are in Kenya Kwanza? The highest. And the other thing he appreciates, when women struggle and get it for themselves, he will respect you. Trust me, that's him. And we can't blame him. The people I'll start blaming now are the women he has given opportunities to do the things that we are talking about now. Does it mean they have killed your voice? Does it mean you are unable to come out and push this agenda? Does it mean you are pushing and the president is not listening? If so, we are here. Throw it back to us and say, look, I have tried this agenda and I can see. And it's not just the president. Because, you know, even the president, sometimes when you look at his seat, it does not click in him, there are no women there.
Did you have expectations that Gachagwa's replacement will be a woman?
No, because I knew by the time they were doing these things, you remember they kept on saying we had agreed it was Kindiki. So why would you come inside? And anyway, why would you come in that mess as a woman if you really want to move? Wait for 2027 and there now. Keep the promise. And by that time, I'm still waiting for us to clear the 1/3 gender role, which he promised us. So I'm hoping we are going to clear it. I'm just hoping, it's my prayer, that is one thing the president promised the country, and he will be the first president to do it from independence time. And we move on like any other country in East Africa. But
Ruth.
Lastly, before you bring in Ruth, the other thing we must ask ourselves is, look, even in Parliament, the president was unable to give us chairs of committees as women. In fact, we went down than the 12th Parliament. So when you look at that, you will understand him. And from that time, I understood myself and I told myself, yes, the president is there, he appreciates, but this is his weakness. And it's not a weakness of not doing it right. It is how he is embedded in culture, and he's still there. And he's not alone. I have very good bishops, one of them, I won't say his name here, who has gone into a diocese somewhere, and ever since he came, he also fears even bringing in women. They are also complaining, and that's church. And yet women are the more in church, and they are the ones who do a lot in church.
Ruth, on the purge between Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto, were your expectations high that this time round perhaps it will be the likes of Anne Waiguru, who are equally experienced like Kindiki?
Thank you so much. Actually, I was very optimistic, especially when I saw the former chair of COG resign. And I was so sure he's just mark timing at the door, just waiting to be ushered in. I was happy because as a woman, I'm sure there are things that should have taken into the inner circle of advisory to the president. However, I was really, from where I stood, I was disappointed that, that the appointment went to Kithure Kindiki. I have no problem with that. But the fact that in 2022, we expected Kindiki to be the man, you know, of the moment. We all were waiting for him. I mean, what confusion brought in Rigathi Gachagua? And why do I say that? Because in 2022, at the point of the vote, no one cared who is the deputy or not. People this time were voting President Ruto, not even Rigathi. It did not matter at that point. Everyone was sold out to him. So the fact that a woman was not brought on board, I think to me, it's a failure to the promises that were made to women in this country. Before you go, Chacha, and the fact that women have been played in leadership of this country, as Honorable Elachi has said. Why has that happened? Because there is a perception that women, there are things they cannot do or they cannot do better. Yet, women are the ones holding most of the issues that can overturn the economy of this country.
Vivian, President Ruto, after already having Gachagua on board, you know, talked in a public forum and said, I'm considering a deputy who is a woman when I get that opportunity. Interestingly, it availed itself sooner than we thought. Were you shocked or did you expect it? And now that he has picked Kindiki, to come 2027, are you hopeful that a woman will be considered in such a position?
First of all, I'm not shocked. Remember, we have a president who talks a lot, says a lot of things, but he's not very big on the follow-through. So I'm not surprised. You know, these things, some of these statements he makes are just for the public arena, but not really meaningful things that he's looking maybe to follow through. But the other reason I'm not shocked is because I think also as women, even as we push for more appointive and elective positions of women in leadership, we need to move away from tokenism so that it's not just, you know, we are saying we are having a woman as nominated as deputy president by the president, but then you will not be, you know, you'll be gagged or you will not be given the latitude to do what you need to do. So as Mheshimiwa said, I think what needs to happen is have more women work to get into these positions, and not just be granted the position on the basis of a token, you know, just so that it's a nice image, a nice picture. Not to mean that there are no women who would be able to do the job if given. Well, it's just that a lot more goes into politics than appointments.
We are completely actually running out of time. Allow me to cut you short and get Sheila on these. Sheila, you know, at some point Raila Odinga pulled the gender card and Martha Karua was the running mate. Will it work for Ruto if he picks a woman as the deputy president or a running mate come 2027? As wind up in 30 seconds or less, kindly.
Not necessarily a woman. We have to qualify the statement of what woman, because I think sometimes when we pick the wrong woman, we end up ruining more than we're actually building. And it's easy to point fingers at the president, but us as the citizen, as the people on the ground, we also have to take responsibility. That when we elect our leaders, even if they are women, we need to make sure that they're women who are actually interested and understand the job in order to move and push development forward. So it is not enough just to have a flower girl there and say, okay, I've checked the boxes. That's not what will make us progress.
Thank you, Sheila Olang. Honorable Beatrice Elachi, even as we wind up, where are the 3 months free diapers that President Ruto promised for women who give birth, and also sanitary towels for all girls in this country?
Well, I think they got the sanitary towels. We need now to ask our women reps, have you ensured you've supplied them? Because they are the ones who took them. I don't think any of us members wanted, and so we left it to them.
Free diapers?
Well, I'm hoping they had pads and diapers. And so I'm hoping they have gone to hospitals because they took it, and they have to now account for it. But for me, it's not about free. You see,
but it's a
one thing we just need to tell the president is that during Kibaki's time, that is when we removed completely tax and everything on sanitary pads. And we just need to go back to that Kibaki's policy.
So that will be enough.
We just need to go back to that policy and work around it. But then when I'm ending, this is what I want to say. I want to plead with the president that as you now bring in new breath, you need to look at Parliament, you need to give women some of these committees. We need to reorganize ourselves before we end the year. I am hoping SHA will be now, somebody can stand firm and say, I am able to walk into a hospital and be treated by SHA.
Thank you.
Lastly, we need to ensure next year, now that our children are doing exams, we are finalizing classrooms of year 9, and I need to plead with members of Parliament because I looked at our own and I realized 6,500 schools have less than 150. 6,000 children. Because we are building schools for my clan, for these ones cannot. Why is it in high school we join together?
Thank you.
So we should not waste the way we are doing waste, and we should pick this GSS must be a beginning of new things for our children.
Thank you. We are completely running out of time. In 30 seconds, Ruth and Vivian. Ruth.
Thank you very much. I think I'll wrap up with the fact that the Ministry of Gender is completely quiet. There is no representation in actually a good representation in the entire cabinet, in the new appointments, in Parliament, and even in the Senate when it comes to the distribution of appointment to women. That has also not been reflected in most of the public appointments that have been done lately. And I think as much as women that work hard towards earning the positions that they get are respected, I think as a promise that was done in 2022, the president should consider more women in his leadership, and he should be able to understand the gaps that are there for women.
Thank you. Vivian, your parting shot.
I think my final remarks are just to say that I think women are easy targets for, you know, criminals and whoever wants to target women. But then I would like to see more from the Presidential Advisor on Gender Issues in terms of tangible policy changes, in terms of viable advocacy initiatives on gender-based violence, and also just more public awareness and campaigns on what can be done to improve sensitization of gender issues. I think that's what I'd say.
Well, thank you so much, Vivian Tarr, Communications and Governance Affairs expert. Honorable Beatrice Elachi, the Great North Member of Parliament, Ruth Kinyanjui, Political Governance and Economic Analyst, and as well as Sheila Olang, who joined us live from Kisumu County. She is an economist and a political analyst. It has been a conversation on women on Ruto's scorecard. My name is Joe Chacha. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.